Hello, welcome to the Goosebumps Iceberg. My name is Lex, and I'll be guiding you through it. Anyways, enough of my lame intro. The reason why I decided to do something with my occasional free time and make this video is due to the fact that there was a very clear lack of decent Goosebumps Iceberg videos on YouTube compared to the endless amounts of Iceberg videos regarding every other pop culture topic. I hope this video will satisfy my desire for a decent Iceberg video regarding Goosebumps, and I hope that you will find it entertaining as well. But back to the topic in hand. In case you were living under a rock throughout the 90s up to now, or you're a little kid, Goosebumps is an extremely popular book series for kids written by Robert Lawrence Stein, better known as R.L. Stein. The series was published by Scholastic and is known for its genre, which is children's horror fiction. In 1992, Goosebumps was born with the release of the first installment, Welcome to Dead House, which followed a plot that centered on two siblings who moved to a new house in a small town with their parents. They start to notice very strange things about their new home and the other kids in their neighborhood. One discovery after another, and soon enough they found out that this town is haunted by the dead. Every installment that came out afterward followed a plot very similar to its predecessor, and always featured a new entity that the protagonist had to fend off against. By 1997, there were 62 books in the original Goosebumps series, and ever since then there have been many reboots to the franchise and spin-off series as well. Now, before we go forward, I have something that I need to confess. I've probably read only one book from the original Goosebumps series. Yes, I know I sound like a fake fan or that I don't have any knowledge of the series. However, I have watched countless amounts of episodes from the Goosebumps TV series, and because of that, I know the basic plots of many of the books from the original series. On top of that, the series holds a very special place in my heart because of the nostalgia I have for it. I remember seeing these books all throughout my elementary school library, and a lot of my friends read it, so it really brings me back to a simpler time in my life. Plus, I do own copies of the first 15 books in the original series in their original designs from the 90s, which I hope to eventually read at some point. So if that satisfies your vendetta against someone like me making a video about an entire book series I've only read a tiny bit of, then you're welcome. With that said, I am prone to making mistakes about continuity and other aspects of the books, so feel free to correct me in the comments if I do. There really isn't much left to say in this intro, so without further ado, let's get started. Reader beware, you're in for a scare. This is the slogan that is still used for the franchise to this day, and it's been changed depending on whether it is used for the TV series or a spin-off line of books, such as Give Yourself Goosebumps. Slappy the Dummy. Slappy is arguably the most well-known Goosebumps monster in the franchise, and he originated from book number 31 in the original series entitled Night of the Living Dummy 2. TV series theme song. The Goosebumps TV series theme song is extremely popular and has been used in videos on social media, usually as a meme. Fox Kids. Fox Kids was the television channel that the Goosebumps TV series aired on. Other notable shows that aired on Fox Kids was Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, Spider-Man, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and many more. Goosebumps 2 had no monsters from the books. This refers to Goosebumps Haunted Halloween, and how it apparently did not feature any monsters from the books. I've never seen Haunted Halloween, and I've only seen the first movie, but I don't think I'm missing out because I've heard less than positive things about the movie. 2003 to 2007 reprints. This point refers to reprints that were made to the original series of books that included new border graphics and completely redesigned cover arts. I personally don't like these reprints, and much more prefer the original designs from the 90s, which are the ones that I own. The show was filmed in Canada. Really nothing much to say here other than what the point says. On to the next. Tim Jacobus. Tim Jacobus is the artist responsible for the cover art of every single one of the original Goosebumps series books, and he even designed covers for some of the spin-off books in later installments. Series 2000. Goosebumps Series 2000 was a series that followed after the original series of books. I don't own any of these books, unfortunately, since a lot of them are pretty hard to find, but even if I did buy a few, it would be long before I eventually read them, because that's how I roll. Horrorland. Goosebumps Horrorland was the series that came out after Series 2000. Like the original series, I've only read one book in this series, which was actually Revenge of the Living Dummy. Slappy World. Slappy World is another Goosebumps series that actually did not come out right after Horrorland. It's the 5th Goosebumps series so far and is currently the most recent series to date. The Haunted Mask. This is the 11th book in the original Goosebumps series. It's said to be a fan favorite amongst the other books, as well as a fan favorite episode on the TV series. Goosebumps Comics. From 2006 to 2019, there were several comic book adaptations of the Goosebumps books. I had absolutely no idea this existed, and I'm interested in checking them out. Goosebumps Night of Scares. This is a mobile game for iOS and Android that uses survival elements in its gameplay according to the trailer. Nothing much to say, but it's worth checking out, I guess. Slappy wasn't the main villain in Night of the Living Dummy 1. For those who have not read Night of the Living Dummy, such as myself, the main antagonist of the book is not Slappy, but rather another dummy named Mr. Wood, who we will discuss later in the Iceberg. Jack Black plays R.L. Stine and Slappy. Apparently in the 2014 Goosebumps film, Jack Black not only plays R.L. Stine, but also provides the voice of Slappy. I had no idea this was the case, but it's very interesting to learn about it. Download and Die. Goosebumps Download and Die is a fan-made short comic series based on the Goosebumps books released in 2018. The story follows a plot similar to that of a generic Goosebumps book, however it seems to take place in our world where these monsters don't exist, and the main characters find a way to actually bring them to our reality. I could be completely wrong though, because I was never able to find a brief summary of the plot, and instead I found super long descriptions of each comic issue's plot, which I did not feel like reading. For those who have read it, please let me know how it goes in the comments. The Girl Who Cried Monster. This part refers to the 8th book in the original Goosebumps series. I'm unsure of any sort of significance regarding the book, so we can just leave it at that. Give Yourself Goosebumps. Give Yourself Goosebumps is a spin-off Goosebumps series that is written in the style of a choose-your-own-adventure book. These were really cool books back in elementary school, and I remember reading one of them and really liking it. The covers were also super cool, and had these shiny designs that really made the book stick out. However, later on in the series, they switched to a more generic design that I feel almost resembles the designs made towards the Series 2000 books, and it's nowhere near as interesting as the original designs. I currently own the first 2 books in this series and hope to find the 3rd, 4th, and 5th books in pretty decent condition. Haunted Halloween. This point just refers to the sequel to the 2014 Goosebumps movie. Haunted Halloween unfortunately was critically panned and did poorly at the box office. Nothing else to say really. Tales to Give You Goosebumps. This was another spin-off book series that consisted of multiple short stories that were compiled into books. I only just heard about these recently and I have never read a single installment. So on to the next. Trick or Treat Studios. I'm not entirely sure about the direct relationship between Trick or Treat Studios and Goosebumps, other than the fact that Trick or Treat Studios is an online Halloween store that sells costumes and other accessories/props that you would typically find at Spirit Halloween or Party City. However, if you look up Goosebumps in the website's search bar, you can find Goosebumps-related products such as masks and other merchandise, so I think that's the reason why it's on the Iceberg. Merchandise. This just refers to the large amount of merchandise made for Goosebumps. A lot of this stuff is super cool, and I would totally buy some of this stuff to put on a shelf or something. Mr. Wood. Mr. Wood is the main antagonist in Night of the Living Dummy, and like we discussed in the previous layer, it isn't Slappy. In the book, Mr. Wood comes to life when the words, now I might butcher this, but here we go, Karu, Marty, Odana, Loma, Malunu, Karano, are said aloud. The translation is, you and I are one now. According to the wiki, Mr. Wood is actually the brother of Slappy, which I am sure more context regarding that is said in the book. Fear Street. Fear Street is another book series that was written by R.L. Stine, however it has nothing to do with Goosebumps. Fear Street was more geared towards young adults and teenagers as they dealt with plots regarding murders and less about monsters. I do own a good handful of Fear Street books because I always loved the cover art designs of the books since they always had this late 80s, early 90s look to them, which is a theme I absolutely love. Of course I have yet to read any at the moment, but I promise I'll get to them, so be patient. One last thing to note regarding my experience with the book series is that I first found out about Fear Street in middle school while browsing through my school's library. It almost feels fitting now that I think about it because I always saw Goosebumps in my elementary school library, but when I started middle school, I got introduced to more mature R.L. Stine books. Because of that, Fear Street really brings me back to when I was 12 and 13 years old. Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman is an extremely well-known composer that has made music for movies including many Tim Burton films such as Batman, Batman Returns, Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, and many more. He's on the Iceberg due to him composing the soundtrack for the 2014 Goosebumps movie. JonTron. JonTron is a YouTuber known for making video game related content where he typically reviews a game but adds several comedic skits throughout the review and it's hilarious. He's on the Iceberg because in October of 2013, he made a 2-part series where he reviewed 3 different episodes from the Goosebumps TV series where he made fun of the over-the-top acting and the poor writing. However, he did make it as a love letter to the franchise, as he went on to say in the beginning of the first part that he loves the Goosebumps books. Brandon Dorman. Brandon Dorman is another artist who has designed cover art for Goosebumps books. He was first brought in to design cover art for the Goosebumps Horrorland books. Monster Blood. This just refers to the 3rd book in the original Goosebumps series. Nothing significant about this that I know of. Tear Outs. A handful of original Goosebumps books included little merch that you could tear out of the book. They included bookmarks, tattoos, masks, calendars, and the most popular piece of merch that you could see, trading cards. Classic Goosebumps. The Classic Goosebumps series just refers to the first 20 books of the original Goosebumps series. I don't know why these books are referred to as the Classic series, and it may have just been the name given to a box set that they came in. Buyable Slappy Dummies. From what I can find, there was a Slappy ventriloquist dummy that was made and licensed by Goosebumps. However, it is super pricey. I found one unopened in its original package on eBay, and it goes for almost $200. Although I feel for the diehard fans, this could be a steal. Movie Slappy was designed after Jack Black. Now this one I am unsure of because it states that Slappy from the 2014 Goosebumps film was designed to look like Jack Black, which would make sense because Jack Black voices him. However, I don't really see this because I always compared Slappy's design to how he looked in the cover of Night of the Living Dummy and on Revenge of the Dummy from Horrorland. I don't know. I guess you can compare it anyway. R.L. Stine started out with comedy. It is said that R.L. Stine originally wanted to write humorous content ever since he was 9 years old. He even had a magazine called Bananas, where he got to show off his comedy chops. He made the switch to children's horror after having lunch with an editorial director at Scholastic, and after encouraging Stine to write a YA horror novel, he went home that night and started writing what would be his first horror novel entitled Blind Date. Since then, he has been writing horror content only. Goosebumps graphics. This point is almost identical to the comics point in the previous layer. Goosebumps graphics were graphic novels that were typically 3 stories from the original Goosebumps line of books that were turned into a comic retelling and compiled into one graphic novel. Slappy's TV design. I believe this only points out the fact that Slappy from the Goosebumps TV series looks extremely different from the way he was designed in the Night of the Living Dummy book cover art. In fact, he looks a lot more like Mr. Wood as seen in these drawings. Regional covers. Correct me if I am wrong, but the only Goosebumps book to get a redesigned cover art was The Haunted Mask, and these redesigned covers were found in the UK, South Korea, and other parts of Europe. This is fairly common though for books to get redesigned covers based on what part of the world they are in, which may be due to how the certain country's culture perceives it at first glance. TV series reboot. This refers to the fact that a reboot to the Goosebumps TV series is currently in development at Disney+. I will definitely be checking it out when it comes out, and in fact, just recently, they showed a teaser for it. So, it's coming out on Friday the 13th, this October, so it could not have been a better time to come out. I'm just hoping that Disney does not screw this up, because it's already very present on their track record to mess up a show on their streaming service. Ryan Gosling and Say Cheese and Die. What's interesting is that there are a small handful of famous actors who have appeared on the Goosebumps TV series, and one of these actors is Ryan Gosling. He's literally me. Anyways, as you can tell from the point, he appeared on the episode Say Cheese and Die. Another obscure role that he had early in his career was actually Remember the Titans, starring Denzel Washington, released in the year 2000. Topps. Topps is a company most known for creating trading cards for a variety of different things, most notably sports. However, they have developed a ton of trading cards for movies, television, and other types of pop culture, which includes Goosebumps. These are the same trading cards found in the original Goosebumps books that can be torn off. Law Gnome Prop Giveaway. Apparently a Law Gnome prop from the 2014 Goosebumps movie was given away to certain people who won it around the time the movie was released. Nothing else much to say. Zack Baby TV. From what I can gather, Zack Baby TV is a YouTube channel that posts campfire tales that go on for hours. But the channel is not actually called Zack Baby TV, but rather it's just called Campfire Tales. The only thing about this point that has a link to Goosebumps is the fact that some of his older videos include him doing a plethora of Goosebumps related content. What confused me at first was the fact that his channel is no longer called Zack Baby TV, and that his newer content is not specifically related to Goosebumps. But even then, nothing is super notable about it, so on to the next point. Harry Potter played a role in Goosebumps' decline. The first installment of the Harry Potter franchise, entitled Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, released in the UK on June 26, 1997. Over a year later, it was released in the US on September 1st, 1998, and was retitled to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This occurred the same year that Goosebumps Series 2000 started, and it is believed that the Sorcerer's Stone gained much more popularity than Goosebumps Series 2000 and completely overshadowed it. I would also argue that discontinuing the original series left a bad taste in many fans' mouths, because changing a popular thing that was already doing great is very looked down upon, and I can definitely agree with that and say that from a personal standpoint. So that, along with a brand new book that spawned an entire multi-billion-dollar franchise that has exceeded Goosebumps in every way even to this day, really did not help bring in any new success for Goosebumps at the time. Goosebumps #1 Aussie fan. This just refers to a YouTuber of the same name who makes primarily Goosebumps related content. While I was researching the Zach Baby TV point, I found a video from Goosebumps #1 Aussie fan where he opened up a package that was sent by Zach Baby TV, so I first learned about him through the video that this guy made. Stay Out of the Basement and Be Careful What You Wish For were drawn by different artists. Apparently these two books had their cover art done by artists that were not Tim Jacobus. Stay Out of the Basement was drawn by Jim Thiessen, and Be Careful What You Wish For was drawn by Stanislav Fernandez. Sorry if I butchered that. I'm honestly shocked this is the case though, because the covers look identical to what Tim Jacobus has created, so it makes me think if other artists did any of the other covers. The Gummy Bears. This one refers to in Goosebumps Haunted Halloween, there's a scene that features evil little gummy bears. Yeah, I can see why this movie didn't do so well. Copycat books. There are a handful of other children's horror book series that people believed are direct copies of Goosebumps. This included series such as Bone Chillers, Shivers, and Choose Your Own Nightmare. And yes, I do feel that these books carry similarities to Goosebumps, but it's always worth checking them out and see what they have to offer. Dr. Brewer / Evil Creeper Confusion in 2014 film. This one I'm kind of stumped on, because this point has a lot to do with the book Stay Out of the Basement from the original series and Your Plant Food from Give Yourself Goosebumps. Like I've said before, I've only read one book from the original series. I haven't seen the Stay Out of the Basement episode from the TV series, so for those of you who have knowledge at this point, please let me know in the comments. Chillology. Goosebumps Chillology is apparently a mini-series from the TV series, according to the wiki. It consists of 3 parts, which include Squeal of Fortune, Strike 3, You're Doomed, and Escape from Carlsville. Curly. Curly is the official Goosebumps mascot. He's a very hip and cool looking skeleton that is most often depicted wearing round sunglasses, a scarf, and a pink mohawk. Monster Blood 4. This refers to the last book in the original Goosebumps series. Compared to the other 61 books, it is by far the rarest and definitely a collector's item. Ghosts of Fear Street. This is a spin-off series of the Fear Street books, and is actually aimed at the same audience as Goosebumps, meaning younger kids compared to Fear Street being targeted to more young adults. These books were not actually written by R.L. Stine and were instead ghost-written, which is kind of funny to think about since they're literally called Ghosts of Fear Street, so that's worth noting. Carlsville. Carlsville is a miniature town model that appeared in the Chillology series. The town is named after the antagonist Carl Knave, I think. It could be silent, but because it's spelled Knave, so it could be called Knave. I'm not sure, but there's really nothing else to talk about besides what it is. Hayden Christensen in The Night of the Living Dummy 3. Hayden Christensen is an actor best known for his role as Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. He has also appeared in the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus series, returning as Anakin, and apparently he's in the new Ahsoka show, which I have yet to watch as of writing the script. Anyways, similar to Ryan Gosling in the previous layer, Christensen starred in the Goosebumps TV series early in his career and appeared in the Night of the Living Dummy 2-part episode. TV Slappy is taller than Book Slappy. Apparently in the Night of the Living Dummy 3 2-part episode, they made Slappy almost a foot taller than his actual height mentioned in the book. To better get an idea of how this is the case, here's this dumb drawing I found on the internet comparing the two, so yeah, there it is. Haunted Mask screen time in movie. According to what I have found, The Haunted Mask only had a very short amount of screen time in the 2014 film, which I would assume angered a lot of fans seeing as how popular the Haunted Mask book is. Deep Trouble TV episode. Deep Trouble is the 19th installment in the Goosebumps original series. When it was adapted onto a screen for the Goosebumps TV series, they for some reason decided to do Deep Trouble 2 instead of 1. However, they still called the episode Deep Trouble, which definitely confused a lot of viewers who had read the book previously. Attack of the Mutant game. There was a PC game made for Microsoft Windows that released in 1997 based on the 25th book in the original series entitled Attack of the Mutant. Nothing much left to say, really. Jerry and Terry Sadler's fate. In the book Ghost Beach, the story follows a brother and sister named Terry and Jerry Sadler, who spend a summer in New England with their distant cousins, Agatha and Bradford Sadler. While visiting, they meet a trio of siblings and soon enough find out that they are ghosts. At the end of the book, they go back to their cousin's house, and the dog of Harrison Sadler, the antagonist, bursts into the house and barks at Agatha and Bradford. This indicates that they are also ghosts, and the story closes with Agatha asking Bradford what they should do with the kids. The question in mind is what happens to Jerry and Terry, which is never explained. That's probably intentional in my opinion, because writers love to let the audience make up their interpretation of certain elements in their stories. Escape from Horrorland game. Another Goosebumps-related game was released on PC called Escape from Horrorland. It was a point-and-click game with full-motion video sequences that acted as a sequel to the book One Day at Horrorland. There was also 2 possible twist endings in the game, which gives it similarities to the Give Yourself Goosebumps books. Cancel Night of the Living Dummy episodes. It is said that there was supposed to be an episode in the Goosebumps TV series that was based off of the first Night of the Living Dummy book that featured Mr. Wood as the villain, instead of Slappy. However, the episode was never filmed and never made past the early stages of development. Celebrity cameos. This point seems a bit misleading as it mainly implies the actors and actresses who ended up becoming successful after starring in Goosebumps. Of course, we discussed Ryan Gosling and Hayden Christensen, but other actors/actresses included Amanda Tapping, Colin Mochrie, Katarina Scorzone, Charlotte Sullivan, Laura Vandervoort, Catherine Isabel, Julia Chantry, Scott Speedman, Kevin Seegers, Chris Lemke, and Sean Roberts. Now, I might have butchered a lot of those names, so yeah. However, there was one cameo in the Goosebumps TV series of an already well-known celebrity at the time, and that is none other than Adam West, who appeared in the Attack of the Mutant episode. Ray Gordon and Slappy New Year is the same kid in Clown Street. Apparently, Ray Gordon and Slappy New Year is the same person from A Nightmare on Clown Street due to them sharing the same exact name and last name. I would be inclined to believe that they are the same person, but at the same time, when you're an author who has written probably thousands of books at this point that follow multiple different series, it would be easy to think of names that are already the same ones used in previous books. Braille books. Most of the Goosebumps books have been reprinted in Braille, which allows blind readers to enjoy Goosebumps like the rest of us. Adam West is the Galloping Gazette. This just refers to Adam West appearing in Attack of the Mutant, which I already discussed in a previous point. Goosebumps Gold. In the early 2000s, there was a planned new Goosebumps series called Goosebumps Gold, which was supposed to come out right after Goosebumps Series 2000 got cut short. 12 books were planned for release, but only 3 of the books are known. These books include The Haunted Mask Lives, Happy Holidays from Deadhouse, and Slappy New Year. As many people are aware, the series was never released and these books never saw the light of day. Sort of. The story for The Haunted Mask Lives eventually was repurposed for the book Scream of the Haunted Mask in the Horrorland series, and Slappy New Year eventually came out a decade later and was also released with the Horrorland series. Unfortunately, Happy Holidays from Deadhouse was never repurposed and is unknown if we will ever see the light of day. Tim Jacobus did the covers for Copycat series. Tim Jacobus, while being most known for being the illustrator of Goosebumps, has been credited for creating cover art for some of the books in the Bone Chiller series of books, which fans claim are copycats of Goosebumps. Horrorland Fright Show. Goosebumps Horrorland Fright Show was an attraction at Disney's MGM Studios in Orlando, Florida, which only lasted from October 1997 to November 1998. The style of attraction was just a stage show that featured many of the monsters from the Goosebumps books, including Slappy, the Haunted Masks, Cuddles the Hamster, and even Curly, along with others. Anniversary Tins. For Goosebumps' 25th anniversary, lunchbox tins were created to store a collection of books, I'm assuming. Over time, they have become sort of a collector's items, but they definitely aren't too expensive, at least from what I've seen. The Unloved Ones represent the 7 deadly sins. The Unloved Ones are a collection of masks from the Haunted Mask, and despite there being 12, people claim they represent the 7 deadly sins. I unfortunately haven't been able to dig up any sort of chart that compares and contrasts the masks to the sins, and like I've said, I don't have a very good knowledge of the books, so for those who need to explain this better, please do so in the comments. Goosebumps Alive. Goosebumps Alive was an interactive show that was held in London and opened up in May 2016. Apparently the show was split into an adult version with more jump scares and gruesome imagery, and there was also a kid version that was less extreme. While entering the attraction, guests would have to find the way to the exit, while going through several rooms containing reimagined versions of the classic Goosebumps monsters, including the Haunted Mask, the Scarecrow, Slappy, and other monsters. The show also featured special artwork that was illustrated by none other than Tim Jacobus. Ghostwriters. A common belief among the Goosebumps fandom claims that most of the Goosebumps books were actually written by ghostwriters. The term ghostwriter is basically an anonymous writer who helps an author write their book, and they take no credit for it. R.L. Stine, however, claims that he hired nobody else to help write his books, but Scholastic claims that Stine did hire freelancers to write a bulk of the series. Regardless, though, it's surprising how long it took for people to realize that, but ghostwritten or not, these books are still loved by the fans. Haunted Library. Goosebumps Haunted Library was a collection box that released in 1996 and contained 3 short stories which included Bad Dog, Don't Make Me Laugh, and The Halloween Game. Nothing much left to say. Cancelled Toy Line. This might be the first point that has stumped me so far, because I haven't been able to find anything regarding a cancelled Goosebumps toy line. Throughout my research, I've only found websites such as Reddit and similar talk about cancelled books, but nothing about cancelled toys. For those who may have an idea about it, please let me know in the comments. Tim Burton directing Goosebumps. In the late 90s, talks of a Goosebumps movie had been on the rise, with Tim Burton attached to produce it. Now, contrary to popular belief, Tim Burton was not going to direct it, he was only going to produce it. Anyways, the project never got off its feet, and Tim Burton went on to direct Superman Lives, starring Nicolas Cage as Superman/Clark Kent. Funnily enough, this movie never happened either. Of course, we now have the 2015 Goosebumps movie, which I think is as good as it gets for the Goosebumps film. Now, disclaimer, I did put this in the description, or at least I'm going to, but this whole time I was referring to the 2015 Goosebumps movie as the 2014 Goosebumps movie. That is my mistake. To my defense though, the Iceberg did say 2014 Goosebumps movie, so I was only going off of that and just by my basic memory, but then I was like looking back and I was like, wait a minute, was it 2014 or 2015? But it was 2015. So ignore every time I say 2014 and just think it's 2015. I'll put it in the description too, so yeah, anyways, on to the next. Wally. Wally is the antagonist of the 23rd book from Goosebumps Series 2000 entitled Slappy's Nightmare. Wally is pretty much an almost identical clone of Slappy who was chosen to replace Slappy in a stand-up act. After Slappy is given one last chance to keep his spot, he is told to commit 3 good deeds in 1 week. However, every attempt Slappy makes, it always ends up being sabotaged by none other than Wally. Slappy-inspired Tattletale. This is another point that has stumped me. I have absolutely no idea what Tattletale is referring to. The only thing I can think of is that game from like 2017 or 2016, I think, called Tattletale, where you play as a kid and it takes place days before Christmas and you sneak into your living room to open a gift that has Tattletale in it, which is kind of like a ripoff of Furby, the toy. Like the game centers around Tattletale, which is a toy that this kid got for Christmas, and it's supposed to be kind of like Furby or something. I'm not sure. Although I'm positive it's not what it's referring to, and if not, then I don't have an answer. Jeff Goldblum in Escape from Horrorland. In the Escape from Horrorland PC game I discussed earlier in the chart, Jeff Goldblum makes a special cameo as Dracula. I guess this could have been put in the cameo point, but this is a video game, not a TV episode. Goosebumps 2 title changes. Goosebumps Haunted Halloween underwent several title changes while in pre-production. A rumor title that was said to be the first pick was Goosebumps Horrorland, which eventually became Goosebumps Slappy Halloween, and then it became what it is now. Tim Jacobus and Converse. This one refers to the fact that a handful of cover art illustrated by Tim Jacobus for Goosebumps include characters wearing red Converse shoes. These shoes can be seen on the covers of How I Learned to Fly, How I Got My Shrunken Head, The Ghost Next Door, Ghost Camp, Say Cheese and Die, and Monster Blood 3. Jimmy O. James. Jimmy O. James is a ventriloquist who first appeared in the Series 2000 book Bride of the Living Dummy. Jimmy is identified as the owner of Slappy and has appeared in several other books where he uses Slappy as the way he was intended, which in turn benefits the both of them according to their stories. El Sidney. El Sidney is a Mexican magician and the main antagonist of the Goosebumps TV episode Bad Hair Day. Not really sure why he's on the list, so if there's any other sort of significance, please let me know in the comments. Goosebumps Live on Stage. Goosebumps Live on Stage was, as you might be able to tell, a stage show that was held in New York. Viewers of the show were given a short book related to the show as parting gifts. Stay Out of the Basement Repressed Homosexuality Theory. Yet another point that has stumped me. I have yet to read this book, and the wiki refuses to give a plot summary that is easy to understand without explaining everything that is happening scene by scene. But from what it looks of, nothing about the story seems to have anything to do with closet homosexuality, and I bet if I had read it beforehand, it would not even come to my mind that there was a hidden message about that within the story. So on to the next. Also, by the way, While putting this video together, I actually did read Stay Out of the Basement and am currently reading Monster Blood. So yeah, I'm finally reading the books now. And while I was reading Stay Out of the Basement, not a single thought was going through my head about repressed homosexuality. I totally forgot about that. But even as I look back and remember the story, I can't think of a moment where anything like that was made obvious. So yeah, there's my personal experience. Horrorland was supposed to be in the movies. Like I mentioned in the previous point, one of the names given to the Goosebumps sequel was Horrorland, and this point might be talking about that. However, we all know the name changed, and this is no longer the case. Attack of the Moon is a Doom clone. This is referring to the Attack of the Moon PC game and how the gameplay is similar to Doom. After watching some gameplay footage, I can definitely agree that it has some similarities to Doom graphics-wise and the way the game controls. Rocky and Zane and Bride of the Living Dummy. This is another point that has very much confused me. I can't seem to find anything about Rocky and Zane and Bride of the Living Dummy, and of course, I've never read it, so if they appear in the story, I would not know. One possible lead I have found regarding this was a fan fiction written about the two characters, but I have literally zero interest in getting involved with any sort of fanfic story, so if that is what the point is referring to, please confirm it in the comments. Gooflumps. Gooflumps is a parody book series based on Goosebumps. They make it obvious that they are just trying to make fun of the series with over-the-top cover art and stories. There were only 2 books written, and they are Eat Cheese and Barf and Stay Out of the Basement. I have no other knowledge of the books other than the assumption that they are purposely written poorly, but if any of you have read them, let me know what you think of them in the comments. My hairiest adventure is about puberty. This is the point that I feel makes more sense than the point about Stay Out of the Basement being about closet homosexuality. Anyways, the plot of My Hairiest Adventure follows Larry Boyd, who always seems to be harassed by dogs, and during a rehearsal with his band, he finds a box of medicine in a junk pile outside. Inside the box is an orange bottle of lotion that Larry decides to rub on his skin along with the rest of the members of his band. After some time, Larry begins to grow excess amounts of hair on the parts of his skin he rubbed the lotion on. He begins asking his bandmates if anything similar has happened, but he soon realizes that his bandmates have been reported missing. As this occurs, Larry begins to grow even more hair all over his body, and he eventually turns into a dog, with the big twist being that he was a dog the entire time. The obvious claim as to why this has anything to do with puberty is the idea of excess hair growth. In the TV version of the book, they show scenes of Larry taking off his shirt to search his body looking for possible hair growth. On top of this, Larry is said to be 12, which is usually the age puberty takes full effect. So the whole claim seems fairly plausible. Adam Sandler's Click and Goosebumps Click similarities. Click, starring Adam Sandler, was released in 2006 and follows Sandler buying a new remote for his TV and learning that not only can he control his TV, he can also control the world around him. This allows him to be able to skip annoying moments of his life, mute loud people, and do a variety of other things. Of course, things take a turn halfway through, and it honestly has some pretty sad moments in it, which is pretty uncommon for an Adam Sandler movie. It's overall not a very good movie, but it definitely has a few laughs here and there, and it's probably one of his better movies that came out after the year 2000. Then there is Goosebumps Click. I have no idea what it's supposed to be, in fact, especially since there is no Goosebumps book currently in production right now that has the title Click. And every time I look it up, it always pairs it with a shocker on Shock Street, so for those who can provide context, please do. Anyways, the Goosebumps episode Click follows a plot that is almost exactly the same as Adam Sandler's Click, where a kid gets a new remote that can manipulate the world around him, but things take a turn quickly and start to have negative effects. Nothing else can really be said except the similarities between the two, so on to the next. The Creatures from Beyond Beyond. Creatures from Beyond Beyond is actually not a Goosebumps book, but an independent horror book written by R.L. Stine. I don't really know why it is on the Iceberg, but it's kind of expected since random books with no significance have appeared on the Iceberg. One slight thing to point out though is that the cover art features a monster snake looking creature, which was also used in the cover for the Goosebumps Live on Stage book. Identified Ghost Riders. Like a handful of other points, I cannot find any leads to the identified Ghost Riders of Goosebumps. And even if we knew, they would kind of defeat the purpose of them being Ghost Riders. The Vampire House. To follow up a confusing point, here is another confusing point with unidentifiable information. Every time I have looked up the Vampire House, with its relationship to Goosebumps, I just see the book Vampire Breath. So, 2 duds in a row, let's hope the next one isn't. R.L. Stine and Scholastic's fallout. When Scholastic hired Stine to write the Goosebumps books, a contract was signed which told Stine that he was to be the only writer of the books going forward. Years passed, and following several lawsuits between Scholastic and Parachute Press, another publishing company, Stine's contract with Scholastic was not renewed for the year 2000. Earlier that same year, all Goosebumps books were put on hold, and that is why Series 2000 was cut short, and all books planned to release afterward either never saw the light of day or had their stories repurposed for other books. Slappy is a pedophile. It is said that in the book Bride of the Living Dummy, the female dummy that Slappy falls for, named Mary Ellen, is not an adult dummy, but rather a child. This implies that Slappy is falling in love with a minor, and therefore making him a pedophile. So, there you go. Slime Doesn't Pay and Dead Dogs Still Fetch. In 1994, R.L. Stine hosted a contest where contestants would have the opportunity to name the next Goosebumps book. There were over 1,600 titles submitted, but the winning title ended up being Slime Doesn't Pay, made up by 11-year-old Jimmy S. Unfortunately, for reasons unknown, the title never made it into an upcoming Goosebumps book. Had it happened, it would have been part of the original series of books. A few years later, another title contest was held for a new Goosebumps book. However, this time around, it was to be a short story. The winning title ended up being Dead Dogs Still Fetch, imagined by 10-year-old Braden G. Stine actually flew to Braden's hometown of Lacona, Iowa, and he wrote the story with all the school students in their gym. There is a video that exists on the internet where Stine is shown in the school gym putting the story together with the help of the students, so for those who are interested, go ahead and check it out. Okay, so here's the thing. When I made the audio for the Slime Doesn't Pay and the Dead Dogs Still Fetch point, I added that into the Iceberg myself because I felt like it was missing. And so I literally, like, as I'm recording what is being recorded right now, I have just now recorded that point after putting it back into the script. And as I was looking up images on the internet for the point, I just now found out that apparently Slime Doesn't Pay is officially, like, becoming a book. It's not going to be a Goosebumps book, it's going to be, like, its own individual book. But it's said to release on September 26th, like, this year, which is in 6 days from now, as of creating this audio. So, yeah, I guess Slime Doesn't Pay is officially seeing the light of day, so... the kid who, Jimmy S, I think that's his name, yeah, he's getting his due, so good for him. All of the Goosebumps books are ghostwritten. Alright, here we are, the last point, which just so happens to relate to a topic that we're all very familiar with at this point, and it's the fact that the Goosebumps books were all ghostwritten. What is slightly different, though, is the fact this point claims that all the books were ghostwritten. I'm sure that isn't the case, but now that we're at this point, it is worth noting that Stine has had a lot of work cut out for him, and probably still does to this day. He has written hundreds of books at this point, and while he was writing Goosebumps, he was also writing Fear Street and other independent novels, which just sounds like pounds and pounds of work. And yes, it is his job to write these books, but it's hard to come up with good ideas when you have been doing nothing but coming up with idea after idea, and then have to come up with a setting and characters. And while you think about that, you have to think about the setting and characters for another book that's a part of another series. The whole process would really urge any author to want to hire a few writers to help him produce his books. Man, we got pretty deep into this iceberg, so let's head back up to the surface. And there you have it. The Goosebumps iceberg has been completely explained. I hope you found this video entertaining and informative for those who enjoy the books and the franchise as well. Now, to go off script, I want to kind of take this time, to explain myself, I guess, mostly to the people who might have been familiar with me in the past, who I don't personally know, but obviously a lot of people who do watch the videos that I create or I have created in the past are people that I know from school and my own personal life. But for those who don't know, or for those who I don't personally know, I guess this is the time where I can explain where I've been. Like, the last video that I uploaded, like, that was something something that I, like, planned out and filmed as a skit, I guess. Because, well, the last couple of videos that I have currently uploaded on my channel are just videos of my school's marching band and other music / marching band related topics, and that was only for the purpose of people who wanted to see those videos within that circle where I live. But before that, it was mostly I was always doing videos based off of different things that I like to do. Like, I did movie reviews and I did skits and whatnot. But that was like going into freshman year of high school, and it has been over 4 years since then. And currently, I am now a freshman in college. So yeah, I've grown a lot since then. And I've, tried different things. And, YouTube wasn't really a thing I just wanted to really do anymore. I've been really passionate about it since I was like a little kid. I even wanted to become a YouTuber and have that be my career. But that wasn't really, a very realistic choice, I guess. And that's definitely not what I want to do even today. I don't want to, this isn't something that I want to do for the rest of my life. I would in fact, I'm going to college to actually become a music teacher. A music educator, to be more specific, I guess. And the reason why I wanted to do this video is because recently I've been watching these like Iceberg videos and just videos explaining just topics that people like to talk about. And like, I've seen the Super Mario 64 icebergs, and I've seen all of those, and those videos are really, really interesting. And I really like the whole like just the community within YouTube, where you can just have people who just talk about certain things from the past, present, and even the future that you might have forgotten about. And that kind of content is just something that I feel like really sparked my interest and wanted me to to like kind of get in on that, and maybe even start making some of my own videos regarding that kind of content. And here I am now making this. So yeah, for those who I don't know, who just so happen to be who just so happened to stumble upon this channel and started watching them, and actually felt that you actually felt that my content was entertaining in a way, I guess that's just where I've been this whole time. And so I hope you like this video, for those whoever you may be, and for my friends who I know personally, yes, I'm sort of back, but it's not going to be the same content as it was before. And for those who stumble upon this who I don't know, you can go digging throughout my channel and see some really, really cringe videos of me that I made back when I was mostly in middle school. Because, oh man, that was like 6th grade all the way to the summer right before freshman year of high school. And man, I was a lot more, let's say, creative, I guess. But yeah. Also, I want to leave a shout out to some of the YouTubers that I've watched that sort of, kind of encouraged me to make a video like this. And those two YouTubers are Raymundo, Nessie Retro, and Kylie. So, if any of you happen to see this video, thank you for existing on this platform so that I had the motivation to make a video like this. So thank you. Anyways, thank you all for watching this video. I definitely plan on making more like this in the future. And yeah, so have a nice day.